I'm Nancy Bell from Oshkosh Public Library, and this is Book Buzz, where I'll take one book that's recently been getting a lot of buzz on bestsellers lists, review sites, social media, and I'll break it down into definable elements, and then suggest 3 books that have similar themes, writing styles, characters, and overall general vibes. So this is a little bit of a special one. This is going to be the very first nonfiction book that I'm going to be talking about. So the way I'll be finding Readalikes will probably be a little bit different. I'm going to be focusing more on the direct themes than necessarily the vibe, as I usually say. So we're actually talking about Crying in Mart by Michelle Zauner. I thought that this would be special because it is actually Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in May. And so when this comes out, it'll be a perfect setup for that, to carry on more discussions about what that means. Also, this memoir spent 60 weeks on the New York Times bestsellers list. It was also number 9 in the top 10 most checked out nonfiction books at Oshkosh Public Library. So Michelle Zauner is actually best known as the lead vocalist of the alternative pop band Japanese Breakfast. But this memoir, Crying in Mart, is her sharing the realities of growing up as an Asian American in the United States and her complex relationships with her mother and with Korean culture. She tells of her struggle with her mother's high expectations, her painful adolescence, and most of all, the importance of food in her bonding experiences with her mother. So as she was beginning to feel the distance to her Korean roots, her mother's diagnosis of terminal cancer brings her home and causes a reckoning with her own identity. So let's try and hamper down those the elements of this. So it's really a moving, heartbreaking story with Michelle coming home to her mother, who she's almost like semi-estranged with at this time, going through the pain of taking care of her dying mother. And so it has those emotional notes and almost like that hopelessness that's heartbreaking. It's Asian Americans and, a mother and daughter relationship, as well as the theme of having someone involved in the entertainment industry and fame writing about these experiences and bringing awareness to a larger problem as an Asian American. My favorite parts are her writing about the food and, the experiences of food and the importance of food in these relationships. So those are the things I'm going to be trying to focus on. Maybe I'll only hit on 1 or 2 in a nonfiction memoir, but that is what I'll be looking for in a read-alike for Crying in Mart. So our first read-alike for this is Making a Scene by Constance Wu. Constance Wu is, famous from Fresh Off the Boat and Crazy Rich Asians. But in this memoir, she's sharing her private memories of her childhood, young love, making it in Hollywood, as well as sexual assault and harassment. It's really a deep look into being Asian American in the entertainment industry, as well as the evolution of her own identity being in the public eye. So the elements of this one, I think, are pretty straightforward, as most of them will be for the nonfiction read-alikes. Asian American in the entertainment industry, dealing with fame, as well as like a reckoning of who she is as an Asian American. How can she almost resolve being both within herself? It's really moving and heartbreaking hearing about sexual assault and harassment, and how she has to recover and almost pull herself away from the public eye, as well as like her experiences after leaving Fresh Off the Boat and leaving to do Crazy Rich Asians, and what that meant for her career and what it meant for her fans. And more than that, it's her really getting, combining all of these experiences in her authentic writing that really brings it home for readers. So if you really want a moving, heartbreaking Asian American book about someone in the industry, this is another great read-alike for Crying in Mart. The second read-alike I have is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, which has been a rock star, standout, breakaway, debut memoir all by itself. And in this book, after discovering therapy and quitting acting in the wake of her mother's cancer and death, Jeanette comes to terms with the realities of being a child star, which she became to provide for her family at the behest of her mother. Once doing anything to make her mother happy, she is now recovering from anxiety, shame, eating disorders, addiction, which were all considered normal, necessary parts of fulfilling her mother's dream, which was to have a famous child. So she wrote this memoir as part of her recovery, and she tells her story of resilience and independence with candor, and if you can't tell from the title, a bit of dark humor. So let's talk about the elements that make this a good read-alike. So it's really, it's the heart of this book is the mother-daughter relationship, which is very similar to Crying in H Mart. Again, it's a figure from entertainment and fame, somebody living this truth in the public eye. And these elements of the mother-daughter relationship becoming toxic and abusive. The story itself is really moving and heartbreaking, although Jeanette tells it with this element of dark humor and from a healthier place. And so for those reasons, I think it's a really good read-alike for Crying in H Mart, because it's someone who has survived and learned and is continuing to carry on. And our final read-alike for today is Climbing the Mango Trees by Matter Jaffrey. So food has the power to evoke memory in Matter Jaffrey's memoir, uncovering her family's history and her own unusual childhood. She brings us to Delhi after the partition of India had devastating consequences to India as a whole, as well as her own family. And she brings us specifically to her large family compound, where her grandfather provided dinners for over 40 members of extended families, which they really savored together. A childhood of climbing mango trees and picnicking in the Himalayan foothills. And all of these experiences have food memories at their heart. There's freshly baked puris, exotic street fare, and the scent of ground chilies and roasted cumin. So again, let's talk about the elements. So again, it's Asian American, it's actually an Asian American woman writing about family again. At this book's heart is really, it's the food writing, which was part of my favorite. It's one of my favorite things about Crying in H Mart is the description of food and the love that's given to the food. And that is also here in Climbing the Mango Trees. Matter Jaffrey is a very accomplished food writer and chef. And so that really comes across in her writing. It's also really moving, reading people's connections with food and their family can evoke your own memories of foods and things like that. Like, that's why Thanksgiving is so important to a lot of people. It's the togetherness of family and food coming together. It's also a little bit heartbreaking just because of the ramifications and devastation of the partition during this time period in India and the ramifications that it had for her family specifically. So, the themes of food writing, being Asian American, and the centrality of food and family all make it a great read-alike for Crying in H Mart. And those are the 3 read-alikes I have for you today. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to the library's YouTube channel for more content. If you have any suggestions or questions, please leave a comment down below. Or you can always get a hold of me at the library reference desk, which I'll link to. Thanks so much for watching, and let's all get back to reading.